knows it's the same
He,
night.
he's the joke trophy is currently in his possession.
Look, it's not coming back this way. The joke trophy. Look, you've been handing that thing back and forth for weeks now, mate. It's like one day it's just going to land somewhere in the center, and then we'll have a monkey knife fight for it or something. All right, let's try that again. All right, hello, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a monkey knife fight.
You've never seen a monkey knife fight? So you just give monkeys knife, and then you bet on who's going to win.
What? No.
I'm intrigued.
It's insane.
And yet disturbed at the same
I've
time.
never seen the monkey
There's
knife
a monkey knife fight.
I've only seen
in Simpsons.
Yeah, I've only seen the Simpsons.
Oh, the Simpsons, like, yeah, I've
Monkey
seen
knife
that.
fight.
Right.
Except we're the monkeys with knives, and we're fighting it out to see who gets the joke
I
trophy.
don't know, 'cause I thought that was a legitimate thing. Like, you had monkeys' knives. That could not end well for anyone involved.
Absolutely not. All right.
Has no one seen Planet of the Apes?
No, knives are fine. Guns is the problem.
All right, I apologize. I'll try and I'll be better this time. Okay, guys. So.
And remember, it's 30, not 29, 31.
Oh god. Oh god. me do count good now. Me no speak well either. Oh god.
Engineer shortage.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 30 of the Board Game Gateway podcast. This time with no Matt, but we have once again 3 hosts sitting around the table with myself. We have to my right, Mr. Blake.
Hello.
To my other right, Mr. Ralph.
Hello, everyone.
And to my left, joining us officially as a host from this point onwards, we'd like to welcome Mr. Damien to the podcast once again.
Hey.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
There he is. Oh, well, thank you for coming back in again. Yes, that's right. We have officially welcomed Damien into the ranks of host. You are now no longer a guest. That means we're gonna have to kick you out of the house. You have to go find your own big boy in the world. Okay.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, Nee started asking for rent, and city rent prices are just ridiculous at the moment. So, cardboard box on the street. Here we come.
Yeah, and he's just trying to fund his next Kickstarter.
I'm sure. Look, from the amount of games that you have, you could rumble up something from there.
I'm convinced
sure.
that our other host, Matthew, has brought Damien onto the podcast just for another excuse to dodge me.
Well, look, we haven't sacked Matthew at all.
Yeah.
Just want to put that out there. No one's gone
And
away.
I do want to say, he's only been on one episode with me, and he hasn't been on another episode since. So maybe it's not you.
Oh, well.
Maybe it's me.
Oh, who knows? Oh, look, that's very good. We'll have tune into episode 31 next week to find out.
The cat in the box was last week. Okay, I don't want to open another box.
Oh god! If this is the first time you are listening to the Board Game Gateway podcast, we are a podcast about board games, quite obviously, tabletop games and fun times. And look, we are hoping to be your entryway into the world of this wonderful hobby that we have. And tonight we're going to be talking about a couple of games. We're going to be talking about a game that Blake and Ralph have been playing, which is Bang the Dice Game. We're then going to have a chat about our gateway game of the week, which is this week The Mind, and its follow-up, The Mind Extreme. And then we're going to go into our discussion topic, which this week is going to be reigniting the old flame. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But to start off the podcast after this what has been a shambles of a start, if you will, gentlemen, I'd like to pass it to Ralph and to Blake to tell us about Bang the Dice Game.
Yeah. So, I mean, Bang the Dice Game is an interesting game. It definitely took me by surprise. I don't know about you, Ralph. Have you played it before this, or?
No, I haven't. And as it was explained to me, Rob actually taught me this game twice, actually, in very quick succession. Not because the game's complex, it's just 2 different occasions that we decided to play it because we had a spare half hour after playing something else. It just reminded me a bit of King of Tokyo, a little bit. But yeah.
You haven't played that one. But on the surface for this one, it sort of looks like a social deduction game in your style of Mafia or Werewolf. That sort of, we're all going to get hidden roles and, the bad guys have got to try and defeat the good guys.
Yeah.
That's that sort of thing. But it has a hidden layer behind it. So basically, you're all going to get dealt roles. You're all going to have, there's 6 dice that you're going to roll on your turn. And you're going to have an amount of health. Now, everyone also gets given a character, which is separate from your roles. So you can have different matches. And your character's also going to have a special ability on it as well.
Yeah.
So basically, you're going to take it in turns. Was it the sheriff goes first?
Yeah, so everyone knows the character you are. Each character has a unique ability, and what I like about the game as well, there's like 20 or so characters in the game, so it's pretty, it's very asynchronous and a lot of variety there. But you get dealt your secret role, but the sheriff is publicly revealed, so everyone knows who the sheriff is.
And then you're going to take it in turns. You're going to roll the 6 dice, and each face of the dice is going to have different icons. Some of the icons include like the number 1, which means you can shoot and take 1 health off the person either to your left or to your right. You're going to have a number 2, which means you can shoot someone 2 spaces to your left or to your right. You're going to have other icons like the dynamite, which you cannot re-roll. If you hit 3 dynamites, you're going to take a loss of life, and then ends your turn immediately.
What's really cool, there's one more, it's the Gatling gun.
Yes. So if you roll 3 Gatling guns, everyone at the table gets hit once. Nice. And you discard all your arrows, which is another face of the dice where there's going to be a pile of arrows in the middle. If you roll an arrow, you take it immediately. And then once all the arrows are taken from the middle, basically the Indians attack, and you take damage equal to the amount of arrows you have in front of you.
Yeah, the arrows is probably my favorite mechanic because like when you land on the arrow, like Blayke said, you actually take that arrow straight up. It's in front of you. And when there's no arrows left in the middle, so there's like 7 or 10 arrows, I'm not sure how many there are, but everyone who has an arrow in front of them, they get hit once for each arrow. So you can have like 10 health and you have 6 arrows in front of you. All of a sudden you're down to 4.
Right.
But it's like a flood. Like the Indians just attack and everyone just gets swept, and it's pretty cool.
So you guys mentioned that it has a bit of that. So obviously on the surface it has this, I can attack the people to my left and my right. If I have a pistol, I'm assuming if I have like a derringer, that's or like some sort of bigger gun or a shotgun, I can shoot people 2 or 3 away. But you did kind of mention that this does have that traitor mechanic, so it's like the sheriff, and then so the sheriff doesn't know who his like deputy is and things like that.
Yes, correct. So I mean, in the amount that we played with 4, there was 5. Sorry, there was a sheriff, 2 outlaws, the deputy, and the renegade, who's sort of on their own team.
Yeah.
Now, I started playing this as a social deduction game. That's what I saw on the base level.
Yeah.
And in the first game, I made the mistake I was an outlaw, and Rob was sitting to my left. I didn't know he was the other outlaw. I had an inkling, but I had the choice whether to shoot him and kill him, or shoot someone else. And everyone at the table had basically decided he was the outlaw because he damaged the sheriff. So I had to kill him to hide my role. And then the game I killed my only ally, and I got smoked from there.
Yeah.
Which led me to realize this is more than just hide your role. You can once your role is revealed, that's not the end of the game for you. You've still got actual gameplay here. Like you actually have life. Yeah. You've got, you can still shoot your way out. If you and your outlaw buddy get revealed, but it's 2-on-2, you've still got a 50% chance to win that based on your dice.
Because you're kind of telling, like, if people know you're the outlaw, the other outlaw also knows you're the outlaw, so they won't hit you and they'll start helping you as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. You mentioned that like this has sort of elements of King of Tokyo in the game. So the question's like, King of Tokyo in my household, with my kids especially, is an absolute favorite. It's one of the board games. You have a look at, you compare the games in my collection. If you want to find a game that has a battered box, King of Tokyo is it. It makes it to the table regularly because it is so accessible. Is Bang the Dice game, would you say it is just as accessible to kids, or do you think it is that little bit, maybe a step too far?
I'd say it is, depending on the kids. Like, know your kids best than anyone else would. Because there is that thing where there was one game, for example, I was the outlaw and I hit the sheriff first turn, and everyone's like, oh, Ralph hit the sheriff, he's definitely an outlaw. And I'm like, oh, I didn't realize he was the sheriff. Oh crap, maybe I should, can I take that back? And people were like, no, don't. A kid probably wouldn't try to go for that little bluff, that sort of thing. So there is that little social element. So I think if a kid's good with that sort of social element and they can sort of piece together the puzzle in front of them, like, how do I kill the sheriff without revealing who I am, that I am a bad guy, they will get it. We haven't explained, we've explained the sheriff. They just need to be alive at the end of the game. They need to kill the outlaws as well. Okay. The deputy is on the sheriff's team, and the most complicated rule is the renegade.
Right.
So the renegade role is they have to be the last player alive.
Mm-hmm.
However, I was the renegade, and I killed the sheriff, ending the game, and I was not the last player alive. So I need to make sure, as the renegade, I killed the deputy, I've killed the outlaws, and it's just me and the sheriff in a shootout. I didn't realize that. So there are some rules here that it doesn't have a reference card for that might be a bit hard for a kid to track if they draw like the renegade card.
Yeah, for example.
I still think it could be worth giving a shot. One thing I'll say is that it always amazes me just how good kids are.
They are impressive,
Any form of social deduction or reading a table or things like that.
They can surprise you.
I don't know if it's because they're underestimated.
Yeah.
But it never ceases to amaze me and how many times I've lost it. Some sort of anything that has some element of social deduction at a table, and it will be a 8, 9, 10-year-old kid who'll outdo me.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
And I think as well, you got to take in consideration, of course, it's player elimination in this sort of game. And, you know, if a kid's playing and people decide that they're the outlaw and, start, I guess, ganging up or, that sort of thing, that can be a bit disheartening in that way. For this style of game, but that's the type of game that it is.
I definitely know the kids that I wouldn't play a player elimination game with.
Exactly. It's know the kid. If their kids are up for that sort of deal and they know the style of that type of game, definitely it's a great game to play.
So I haven't actually played Bang the Dice game. I have played, and I do own Bang the original game.
The card game.
The card game,
Yep.
So
which I haven't played, so I can't really.
Yeah, it does sound like it's pretty much the exact same sort of game, except the only difference being is that a bit more random chance in terms of I roll the dice and I deal with what I have in front of me.
It's push your luck. Like it's like, do I want to roll that dice again?
Yeah.
To risk that dynamite or to risk that more arrow? That sort of thing.
That does sound like one of the things that I do think the original game. So like this is actually now 10 years old. Bang the Dice game was released in 2013. Bang the original game, the card game, was released in 2002. So that's 21 years old now. So it's been around for a long time. However, one of the things you did kind of mention, but we haven't really talked about, is the fact that so you do have your loyalty cards, but there are these asynchronous character cards, and each of them have these.
So I mentioned there's like a good 20 card deck. So there's a lot of variety.
So the brilliant thing about that with young kids, which we were talking about, is the fact that you can just get rid of those out of the game. You can just say, we're not playing with those today. And so for the kids, if you're thinking, well, maybe it's one step too far, you just go, okay, we'll just deal with the trader mechanics for today, and then we can add in that variability at a later date and go, okay.
Let alone the kids, I think about 3 or 4 times someone at the table's going, oh, I forgot my guy could reroll dynamite.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that can happen. It's like there's one rule on your card, man.
And I think that's the game's attempt at introducing a little bit more replayability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not sure how well that achieves
it.
it.
I liked it because I played it 2 nights in a row, and we didn't just play one game of it. We played like 4 or 5 each night. I appreciated the replayability. It gave me more options. Yeah, that sort of thing.
It
like
does.
whereas one's like discard an arrow if you lose a life. I'm like, sweet, I don't mind arrows now.
Yeah.
So,
Do you think that this game as well, given the fact that it does have a trader mechanic and all that kind of stuff in it, works better dependent on the group? It's very group dependent. Do you think that, or do you think, like, for example, because this is dice, you could be absolutely boned by some dice rolls? Do you think, like, how does this game work? Especially given the fact that there
Blake was boned by some dice rolls.
Well, that's the thing. Given that there is player elimination in this sort of game, do you think that kind of that luck dependency can do these powers help? What do you reckon about that stuff?
I mean, personally, I didn't find the powers too impactful, but that could have just been the powers that I got. I think one of them was whenever a Gatling gun goes off, you ignore that damage. It's 1 damage, it's not that big of a deal. Yep. And I think the Gatling gun only went off once, maybe twice in about 3 or 4 games.
Right.
So it felt I did have more health to compensate for a weaker ability, but it just didn't feel as impactful. Things like that.
For example, like one ability I had was normally you need 3 Gatling gun icons to trigger the hit everyone once, but my character only needed 2. And I rolled 2 in my first roll, and you get 2 re-rolls, right? I thought, if I get another pair of 2, does that hit everyone again? The answer is no, because the rule is literally like 2 or more, you hit everyone once.
Right, okay.
So it's kind of, each rule's kind of balanced. It's not overpowered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Blayke, how did you get dicked over on your rolls, mate?
Mate, I think I was the sheriff, so I rolled first, and I rolled all 6 of my dice, and 3 dynamite came up. Bang! I take a health, and that's my turn over. So
Nice.
went over to the next person,
We
went
did a
around the
full
table,
round.
full round, came back to me, rolled 3, bang, 3 dynamite, and
It was a great
that
sheriff.
was my turn over. But in saying that didn't dick me over too much. I don't think you can get dicked over too much by random chance in here. Because even so, what I found out is that gave me, rather than just shooting people, because if you draw damage dice, you can't not shoot people.
Yeah.
It gave me a chance to sort of survey the table. I'd only taken 2
Yeah,
damage
that's
to
true.
myself, and let the table reveal itself before I started taking any actions and
Okay.
aiming.
And I think by the
aiming
time
at
it came round to you again, you've realised I was an outlaw. Like, it's such a fun game where you start thinking, okay, I rolled those hits. Who do I hit? Whereas King of Tokyo is more like, okay, I'm in Tokyo. I'm going to hit everyone. Like, you don't really think about who you're hitting. This
Right.
one you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, Blayke, welcome to the Can't Roll Dice for Shit Club. I'm the chairman of this club. Welcome.
Although, in our other game, which we'll mention later, I did roll quite well. So I think it balanced itself out.
You did well. Really freaking well.
All right, so we'll move on from there, that was Bang the Dice game. I do have to give a shout out to the credits. Obviously, designer by Michael Palm and Lucas Zach were our 2 designers there. So,
And I want to thank Rob for showing us that game as well. It's pretty awesome.
yeah, big shout out to Rob as well. So we'll move on from a Bang the Dice game. We're going to now move to our Gateway Game of the Week. Moving from a game with dice, we'll move back to the card realm. We'd like to have a chat today about an oldie but a goodie. I say oldie, it's not that old, I guess. But we're going to talk about The Mind and its follow-up, The Mind Extreme. So, Ralph, I'd like you to take us through and take the people at home.
Sure.
The Mind, which was, to be released in 2018. So 5 years old, which, could be a bit old in the board
I
game
feel
scene.
old saying that this game is 5 years old. But The Mind did feature on our top 10 Gateway games quite a few episodes ago. It's a game that we all pretty much love. But for those that don't know what it is, essentially you're all on a team and there's 100 cards in a deck of cards, right? And they all have numbers 1 to 100. And the deck, basically, the game has levels. And you start on level 1. And on level 1, every player gets dealt 1 card. Now, the aim of the game is everyone has to play a card in sequence order from 1 to 100, okay? You can't skip any numbers. So if I have number 70 and someone plays 89, that can't happen. If it does, we lose a life because I should have played my card first. So it sounds pretty simple, just putting your cards in numbered order, right? The catch is you can't talk during this.
Or give signals,
Yep.
or make hand motions, or
Yep.
give the raised eyebrow.
Yeah.
You can't do
right.
that.
And that's pretty much the game. That's level 1 anyway, where you get 1 card each. Then after you do that, you go to level 2 and you get 2 cards each. And then after you do that, you go to level 3 and you get 3 cards each. And the game plays the exact same way. Now, if you play 4 players, you actually start with life points equal to the number of players that you have. So if you're playing a 3-player game, you have 3 lives. And every time you sort of play a card out of sequence, you lose a life. Okay, even if you were to play multiple cards, you still just lose 1 life, which is really interesting. I've been playing that wrong for years. But there is one other rule. There is a power ability called a Ninja Star. I don't know why it's a Ninja Star, but it's a Ninja Star.
Totally random
Yep.
things.
Yes.
Why are there rabbits in here? Don't know.
Yeah, there's pictures of rabbits on the
Speaking
box,
of
really.
theme.
Yeah. Speaking of theme, this one does not land its theme. The only theme it has
From
is
last week.
the word is the mind, because you're trying to be on the same wavelength as other players. But what the Ninja Star is if you find yourself as a team in a really tough spot, you look around, multiple people want to play a card, and you don't know which card to play in what order. You think there's a chance of losing a life here because the game gets tense because the levels are hard. You don't really regain many lives. The game gets pretty close. So what a Ninja Star is when that time happens, a player can raise their hand and all other players have to raise their hand as well. That's agreeing to use a Ninja Star. And what that means is everyone takes the lowest number from their hand and puts it face up in front of their person. So that way everyone can see on the table the lowest card. and then gameplay resumes. Okay, so you will typically play your lowest card next and go in order, but that's not always the case because someone could still hold a card that's lower than your lowest card. So you got to be careful because you could lose a life that way. What do you boys think of the mind?
Love it.
Yeah,
Absolutely
Fantastic.
love it. Great game.
it is brilliant.
It was quite high on my list for a reason. It's so simple, so fun, gets everyone involved, and for a game with no communication, it gets quite excited.
The game itself is, as you said, so simple. It's just playing cards from lowest to highest and with no communication, no talking. I do love how the game starts with you all have to start your hand on the table.
The meld.
Mind meld. And then at some point it's like, okay, and then
get in sync with each other.
Without talking, when everybody removes their hand from the table, it's game on, right? It's just like you take this moment to get, and it is really, really funny. The first time you play this game and someone just goes, okay, cool, I'm just going to play the 7. And everyone goes, no, what are you doing? There's a low card. No.
My favorite thing in the game is when you get to the higher levels, your 4 and your 5, and you still got all these lives and you're thinking, we're doing this. We're amazing. Look at us. And then the very next level, you just burn lives. And what's going on? It's all gone so bad.
So there are 12 levels that you could potentially play up to with 4 players.
Yeah. 4 players is even less than 12.
Maybe 10.
Yeah,
I think
it's
10 levels.
Yeah, because it scales for the player count.
Yeah. And so, but the game itself this is the epitome of a game that people don't think is a game because it's like, well, there's no like quote unquote game here, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no mechanics.
I just want to ask though, have any of you boys beaten it?
No.
Myself and Georgie, we got to like level 11 once when we did it. Like one versus one. Yeah, we did beat 12 because we had like 1 life to get through it, and then at one point is like if you've ever played the mind, what ends up happening is the first couple of rounds people start getting really calm, and then what will happen is it just takes one person, for example, will play like a 33, and then one person very quick fire will play the 35 they've been holding in their hands, like oh crap, and then someone miraculously has the 34 and looks at them with dagger and go, what are you doing? And that one motion of someone like getting antsy, it's amazing how that feeling perforates throughout the people at the table, because you're like, as soon as one person starts getting antsy, you can't talk to them, so you can't yell at them, calm the fuck down, calm down, right? Because they're just, and just like, oh god. And once that happens, all of a sudden the whole table is just like, all right, well now we're playing to his speed, whatever this is, like, or she, I love it.
I think one of my favorite things that I heard recently that involved the mind, and I think it was one of you guys that told me, where it was actually a group of musicians were able to consistently beat the game because they maintained a 4/4 beat in their head. And because, again, they're all musicians.
That wasn't me. Maybe Matt.
Yeah,
maybe Matt told you this.
It's easy to do it. Like, if you have people that are good with tempo, you could easily play it on the bar chord, like on the bar of music.
Yeah. That's it.
So that's where the mind, why I stopped playing it. As soon as I figured out 4 people with good timing can just blitz through it,
just kind of talk it out in
it's
their
not
head.
a game anymore.
Yeah, it's not.
And it's become an activity, not a game for me.
See, I don't play it at that 4 count anymore. The game box says 2 to 4, but I actually play this game now with 8 to 10 players, and we stuff the levels off. We just say, right, it doesn't matter about the game. We'll give everyone 1 card, and if we get through it, we'll go to 2. And then we'll just see how many levels we can get through as a team. And it's really funny because some of my family members just cannot not communicate. They just cannot, with this idea of like, it's like, shut up. It's like, no. Like, but one of my favorite moments in the mind every time to watch is that if you have someone who has a 99 and someone who has 100, because both of them are just like, I don't want to move. I'm going to move. And you see the person with the 100 just goes, I'm not going to move. And the 99 person goes, I'm not going to move either. And then eventually you start to see the layers of doubt creep into the 99 person's face. Like, mate, like, but do you have the 100 or do you have a 98 and you're trying to be better than me? You just watch this internal monologue struggle in their face, and it's one of the greatest moments to see them finally go 99 and there's like, yay, or there's the 100. It's one of my favorite moments.
Let me tell you, right? So to me, the mind, fantastic. I've overplayed it. I put it away. I haven't got it out for a while. Those moments that you were just saying, they happen at the normal player counts for the mind extreme every time.
Well, let's talk about the mind extreme. So we've talked about the mind and why that's great. So let's talk about the extreme, because I'll
hand that one over to Blayke to explain.
Yeah, so let's take what's different about the mind extreme compared to the mind.
Right. So the mind extreme takes the exact same concept, except now you are playing with 2 sets of cards all in the same deck. One are the same as your regular cards, except they now go from 1 up to 50. And on the other side of your level deck, you're going to have another set of cards, red ones, which play from down from 50 to 1.
Oh, no.
Wow.
No.
So you're going to play both of these decks simultaneously.
Oh, no.
You don't get one red and one blue, so you know exactly what everyone has. You're going to deal them out one each, same as normal.
The level 1, you get 1 card each.
And
yeah.
you may have 4 reds at the table.
Oh,
you may
no.
have any sort of combination of the cards, but you have no idea which combination that is.
Both myself and Damien are sitting here shaking our heads.
That's just chaos.
Imagining.
Now, let me tell you, it
Media
sounds
chaos.
like chaos, and it is. However, it is controlled chaos, and it is amazing.
I can imagine. Just
Now,
my mind is immediately going, "Oh no!" Because now you have to keep track of 2 things.
I think a lot of people, a fair few times, someone would put a red down one and snap it down instantly. You go, no, that's the last member.
Yeah, just remembering which deck goes up and which deck goes down, people forget.
Now, those issues with the original mine, keeping time and tempo, they become a lot harder in this. All of a sudden,
impossible.
cards are flying on one end, and you completely lose the timing of the other deck. I think that happened with me.
Yeah, I
People
think
playing on the right, and Ralph's played one on the red, and went, no, I had one before that, and he goes, well, it's been there for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's right. I'll play like 48 here on the deck that's meant to go down, and everyone's playing cards in the blue, and I'll let that 48 sit there for a while, and then I'll play 35, and people start yelling at me because they were looking at the blue deck and not the red deck.
Now,
I can imagine.
this game also has one further wrinkle to it,
No.
and this is when you go
More
up in
chaos?
levels. It starts on level 3. Now, on your level card, you're going to have a hand symbol to one side of your deck, and what that indicates is that color on that side, you need to play face down.
Oh, no.
See-
no.
So the red side's still the same, and the blue side's still the same.
So you
the
don't-
only difference is it's face
So
down.
you have no idea.
You have no idea if
That's
you've made a
right.
mistake. You have no idea where you're up to until the end. And let me tell you, this is where I started to think, okay, this is getting a little bit ridiculous. Probably the original might be enough. But when you get at the end and you're sitting there and you're going, okay,
There's a reveal. There's a reveal.
and then you've got it right. There's nothing better.
Everyone cheers. We did it, guys.
I was gonna say, from talking to you, what you've just said, and we've talked a lot about gaming experiences and moments for gateway games. That honestly does sound like the moment you get it, you're just like, that is the best feeling we've ever had.
'Cause I
I'm
think-
the best man in the
We
world.
played a few hands of this, and Blake and I looked at each other and we're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
yeah. Again, when I first had it explained to me, I thought they've put too much in it. It's too much. It's taken away from the simplicity of the game, which I think is the core of the success of the first game. But I think it keeps that simplicity. Even though there are 2 things to focus on, it's the same level of simplicity. You're doing the same thing. It just adds another layer of the same stuff to it, and I think it does it successfully.
The rules are the exact same, but the ninja style works a little bit differently. So you no longer just show your lowest card. What you do is you still show your lowest. You can choose. You can either show your lowest blue card or your highest red card.
Okay.
Is there a
So
way
there's
to
that
communicate
choice.
that?
No.
Okay.
Well, you communicate that by showing the card.
No. But I mean, is it like one hand to show the blue card, or
No,
the other hand show
it's
the
up
red
to the
card?
player.
No.
So some person show a red, and then everyone else shows a blue, and you're like, oh, well, that doesn't help.
And I'm sorry. I'm assuming everyone has to put the card face down,
Face
initially,
up.
and then.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah. That's how we do it. Yeah,
Yeah. Because
Face
otherwise,
down, then flip.
because timing becomes
It influences your
important.
decision.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's interesting when one of the cards, like say the right hand red cards, have to be put face down. It's interesting when you reveal that, and then everyone still stares at each other like, what should we do? You're waiting for someone to pick up their card and place it on the face down pile.
So following on from what you were saying there, Blake, how you said, it did feel like there could potentially be, at the start, feel like there's too much complexity. Do you think that the Mind Extreme, you could start with, maybe a shortened deck of, like, say, 0 to 51, or do you think you'd still go the Mind as the initial, stepping point. I guess this is for you as well, Ralph, which is, do you think that this replaces the mind? Do you think it's a step? Do you think, what do you think the place of the mind extreme is compared to its younger brother?
For me, I think this entirely replaces the mind. I wouldn't play the mind anymore.
Okay.
If I wanted to teach someone, I would probably just play with a shortened deck of 50 and just to show them the concept of one deck.
That's a good idea.
And then once they've got that comfortable, move on to using both decks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for me, this just completely replaces everything about the mind, and it blows it out of the water.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly there. Just, you know how you play games, like we were just talking about Bang, where you slowly introduce rules. Like you might take certain things out to show kids. This is the exact same thing. It's just one little rule that you add, and putting your card face down. It's introduced from level 3, and by that time you're already in a little bit of a sink anyway.
Okay.
And it sounds impossible to do, but we did it fairly consistently.
I think we did it more than we didn't, and that was
I have to tell you my favorite moment of when we played this game. Actually, Blake knows what's coming here. So I think we're playing it 3 players: my brother, Blake, and myself. And you play two things, but this one I think there was the red pile. The blue pile we had to put face down. Okay. Anyway, so we're just playing our cards. We're playing, the red card face up. I play a blue card face down. My brother plays a blue card face down. And then we're just playing the game, and you're not supposed to talk, but we're just having a bit of a giggle here and there. And Blake's like, guys, I think we've lost this one. And he puts a card down on the face down blue pile. We continue playing the round. We finished, it was level 5 or something. And now it's time for the reveal, where we grab the face down pile and we go from the top to see if we put them in order, right? We get all the way down to 10. I think it was a 2, a 3, and a 1 or something. Anyways, Blake played a 2 as the 3rd or 4th card in that pile. And we only found out after the game was over. So Blake was there silently going, I think we lost, guys. And we're playing seriously. And I'm like, how did he not lose his cool?
Oh, God. I can't even imagine.
And then we just burst out laughing. We're like, what's this 2 doing between a 17 and a 15?
I was watching the wrong deck, and then I didn't even see the 2 in my hand until, and then I looked back. I'm like, okay, no, what have I got to? Oh, that's a 2. And there's definitely more than 2 cards already there.
But I can see already where this changes it from being less of an activity and more of a game. Again,
that was my next follow-up question, which is, so one of the big things that the mind gets played with now is the fact that we use it in GuberCon or with big family events where we can say, screw the player count, we're just going to have as many, we have 8 people around the table, everyone gets a card, let's have some fun. Could I do that with the mind extreme?
You can, but for me, what makes the mind great is the challenge of completing it.
Okay.
And I'd rather sit down with 3 or 4 people and try to beat this game.
I think only if you're playing in that scenario where you're just throwing the player count out the window and you're just playing for fun, I think you stick with the mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Fair enough. Well, that's good to know that it has a place, but also sounds like that the mind does probably listen to a few of the different things and said, okay, let's try and make it a bit more of a challenge and actually find a bit more of a communication network.
I do want to say that in the base game of the mind, I only tried it once because I've only beaten it once with 3 players. Once you beat the game, you're actually meant to continue playing from level 1, but you play the whole game face down. So you're supposed to go from level 1 to level 10. We tried that. We only got to level 3, but we only beat the game the proper way once. So the idea is that those 4 or 3 players are so in sync, you can do this with the power of your mind. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So this just sort of, the Mind Extreme just took that rule and sort of just threw it into the middle levels just to make it that extra bit interesting. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, that was our gateway game, or gateway games, I guess you could say, of the week, which was the Mind and the Mind Extreme. Both have a place in your collection. It's up to you to figure out which one that one is. So the reason why we picked the Mind, it came off the back of the fact that we had Bang the Dice game, which was released in 2013. We had the Mind, which was released in 2018, which was, in terms of board gaming, it is kind of old. I mean, it's not that old in terms of real life, but it does feel like so many games have come out since the Mind. but it does have a place. And we thought Ralph had a very great idea here, which is, well, let's actually talk about games that we've played that are older games that we maybe have wanted to reignite the flame of. That idea of like, this is a game which has been sitting in my collection and is maybe a bit of an older game, such as games that Damien and we've talked about in a couple of weeks back. We talked about Tigris and Euphrates, which was a very an older game, but then we've discovered to try and reignite the flame and go back and look at those games. And we thought, well, let's do that tonight. Let's have a chat about that. Let's bring up some games that we put in that category, and maybe there may be games that we've tried to reignite the flame again that still we're like, they don't hold up anymore, and I'd like to hear about those as well. I'm sure the audience would. So, look, Damien, let's start with you here. Let's talk about games that you've tried to reignite the flame with, and whether or not it was successful or not.
Yeah, I think like my collection has a number of older games. Easily the oldest game that I have in my collection is Crokinole.
Yeah.
It's been spoken about a bunch on this podcast. For those who haven't caught on, it is a flicking game. So it's a dexterity game. It is amazing. I'm not going to talk too much about it because that's actually not the game that I want to talk about here. But that's probably the oldest one. And that one is always a banger every single time. But the game I revisited recently is actually Werewolf. 1986 was originally its origination date. It was originally just a social experiment. And the reason why I revisited that game is because I've been playing a ton of Blood on the Clock Tower, particularly with Ralph, and I've consistently said that this game replaces Werewolf for me. But we played Werewolf online with a number of my colleagues at work, and it still does hold up. With the right group. My particular experience, and I've had similar experiences to this, but apparently I just have one of those faces where I suggested, let's play Werewolf. So immediately that meant
you're the werewolf.
I'm the werewolf.
Yep, no matter what happens.
So first
Sounds
game,
like werewolf talk coming from that mic over there.
pretty much. Yep. So first game, I basically got lynched almost immediately. And second game, people were talking about lynching me almost straight away, and I said, "Look, I'm here to play a game. This is really."
You just want to get out of meetings, don't you?
Hold on, but were you the werewolf in the second game?
That's not the point. The point is that I got out of it. I was the werewolf, and I won that second game as the werewolf. But
well done.
Look, Werewolf absolutely still holds up. It is still group dependent.
Very much.
You have to be okay with player elimination because, unfortunately, if you are lynched, you're out of the game. That's it. You can't vote. You can't talk. You really can't communicate. Go get a coffee. It's one saving grace that it generally is pretty quick. If group dependent, right groups there, they will keep the game going.
How many players did you play with your work group?
We played with 7.
Oh, that's, I think, the limit. I wouldn't go any more, really, than
I
6.
agree. I agree. I do agree. It helped that we were all experienced with the game, so we all knew. Obviously, Werewolf, I think it's... There have been a ton of editions of Werewolf in the last near 40 years now. There are more and more roles involved with some of the more recent editions.
Yeah, I think it's millions at some point.
Oh, yeah. I will say, still, is Werewolf better than Clock Tower or anything like that? No. But at a smaller group count, I think Werewolf does hold.
Yep.
Still does hold
I'm interested,
well.
What's your take on One Night?
One Night Ultimate Werewolf.
Ooh.
So
I'm not sure. I don't think I've played that.
One Night Ultimate Werewolf fixes Werewolf for me.
Right.
And my biggest problem with Werewolf is the fact that someone doesn't play the game. Because the werewolf has to kill someone on the first night.
Yeah.
Before you've had a chance. There's no point in revealing any information on before the first night. And then the werewolf kills someone, and whoever they killed just says, "Sorry guys, you don't get to play this game. You're out of this round because you were killed."
Yeah.
Whereas One Night Ultimate Werewolf takes an app and it takes a narrator, and then everyone gets given their roles. Then you go to sleep, and the narrator will tell everyone to wake up and do something with their roles, and then you're not allowed to look at your cards once you wake up.
Okay.
So not only are you trying to figure out who you are, there is a chance that you may have started as the werewolf, but someone potentially could have changed your role. So you need to not only figure out who you are, but you can tell people, I was this role and I did this. There's 3 also. One Night Ultimate Werewolf takes 3 different roles and puts them in the center face down so no one can see them. And then so that means that gives the werewolves and other people a chance to look at a role and go, okay, this is active in the game somewhere. But yeah, One Night Ultimate Werewolf does fix it. So I think we should play that with you. I think
absolutely. I would love to give that a go.
And then the game's played in one night. And, and that's it.
Yeah, you have 7 minutes to figure it.
And if you find the werewolf, you win. If you don't, the werewolf wins.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. You say then at the end of 7 minutes, everyone does a vote, and if you or someone can initiate a vote before the 7 minutes or however long the discussion period is, and then you all vote. And if you kill a werewolf, the town wins. If you don't, then the villagers win. The classic is the tanner. The tanner is the guy who wants to be killed, and if he wins, he's the only exception to the rule. The tanner gets voted, he has a solo win, and everyone else loses. I have gotten a miracle play as the tanner only once, and it was brilliant. But I
still my favorite memory of one night, and I think I've mentioned it on the pod before, where I was teaching my brother this game, and he first time playing it, we went him through how to play, and he goes, okay, yep, I've got it. And he's not a board gamer either. He's not involved in these games most of the time. And the narrator goes through the whole process. We all wake up. We go, okay, well, what's everyone's roles? And he just looks everyone straight down the candles and goes, I'm the werewolf. Just straight up, and we're all just speechless. We're like, you understand how to play this game, right? You're not supposed to tell everyone that. He's like, yeah, I know, but that's who I am. So, like, is he the tanner? Is he just playing?
It's a brilliant.
Yeah,
play.
just
it's
playing
a
dumb.
Heads up play. It's a brilliant heads up.
Threw
play.
us all for a loop. It was fantastic.
Nice. Yeah, I would absolutely love to give that one a go. But yeah, Werewolf. Like I said, I still think it holds up. Again, group dependent. We had a blast. It was fantastic being able to play that online with some of my mates.
All right, well, that's great. That's a great opening bid from the gentleman with the backwards cap over there. We're going to open it up to anyone else. We'll go to Ralph for your your reignition.
So I actually went back and played what I deem as my gateway game. This game actually got me into the hobby of board gaming. I played Risk before that, but that was pretty much the extent of as complex as I got. But I was a big fan of the TV show, and one day I was walking past a game store in the city and saw it at the front. I thought, why not? I'll buy it. Could be terrible. Who cares? I'll give it a go. I played Spartacus on the weekend. I had Blake and a few friends and family over my place, and we got a 5-player game of Spartacus in. Blake, do you want to explain this game a little bit to people?
Oh, well, it's my first time playing this game, and I loved it. But basically, Spartacus, it's based on the TV show. If you've seen the TV show, you're going to get given the role of a Dominus, I believe, in the Gladiator arena, where you're trying to impress the crowds and increase your influence over the other Dominuses. So right. You can set the game timer. Once you reach 12 influence, if you hold the influence to the end of whatever phase you're currently in, that's how you win the game. Now, you're going to have different phases, like the opening phase is like your action phase, where you're going to have a hand of cards. You get to play things like schemes, discard a few cards, sell some things for some money. Mm-hmm. And this is a very player interaction heavy game, so you're going to be playing schemes against other players.
Yeah, you won't be making friends in this game.
Definitely
not at all. No chance. Okay. No chance.
Once that phase is over, you're going to move into like a market phase where you can make deals with other players. This game's very open to deal making. And,
right.
If you do that for me in the future turn, I will do this for you now. But again, no deals set in.
Are deals binding?
No.
Future deals are not binding.
No, not even.
Not even.
No, I could have a card that will basically say, I'm going to get 10 money. I'll give you 5 of that money, and you'll be like, sure, I'll help you play that card, because say cards have influence values. If I'm on 8 and you're on 8 and the cards need 16 influence, I can ask you, Nick, can I have your help? I'll give you 5 coins. This card's going to give me 10 coins. You're like, sure, I'll help you. I'll play it. I'll take all 10 coins for myself.
or he doesn't even have to play that card.
I could play a different card that makes you lose 2 points.
It's basically
Oh God!
Yes, so-
I want to play this game so badly.
You
And it's entirely in the rules for me to do that.
You're
Right,
not
okay.
making friends.
basically diplomacy
Yeah.
rules, essentially, right there.
Now
Yeah.
give it back. Give what back?
Yeah, it is a brutal
Yeah.
game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're moving into this market phase where you're going to be doing sort of deals, selling off some of your assets, things like that. You're going to move to an open market where you're going to draw from a market deck. Cards are going to come out such as slaves, gladiators, weapons, equipment, things of that nature. And everyone's going to bid basically on these cards. So you're going to take from your treasury. Everyone's going to put out their hand with amount of coins in it, and everyone reveals at the same time. Whoever bids the most wins the card. Tiebreakers, you're just going to put the card and bid again, just the people who tied,
Right.
until there's a winner. If no one decides to bid any more money, the card just gets discarded.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, once you're finished this phase, you're going to move into the actual gladiator battle. During the bid phase, you're going to bid for who's the host of this, and the host gets to invite people into this arena.
Right.
You're
Okay.
going to say, Damien, I officially invite you to battle in the arena. You can decline.
Can I bring my pet lion?
You can.
Yes.
If you decline, you're going to lose influence. If you accept, then you're going to put one of your gladiators forward into the arena to invite.
Or one of your slaves.
Yes.
Do they have a pet lion?
No.
Unfortunately not.
No.
And the gladiators are going to fight in this little mini game, which I think was done pretty well.
The battle system is fantastic in it.
Uses a lot of dice,
Yeah.
but I'm fine with that.
But what's good about that is you don't have a lot of dice for long because dice are your health.
Right.
Okay, so each gladiator and what I like about in the market phase, there's weapons, slaves, and gladiators, and each one of them is different. They all have some sort of different ability. They all sort of upsell themselves, and the deck's fairly huge, so you don't know what gladiators are going to come out during the game. But the way the battle system works is you have your attack dice, your defense dice, and your speed dice.
Right.
So speed are your initiative, and that will determine how far you can move, and the speed is which your gladiator works. So you can try and time the first hit in the fight.
Right.
And when you get hit, say your opponent deals 3 hits to you, you're taking dice out of your dice pool.
Okay.
Okay, so your gladiator is getting weaker during the fight.
Yeah.
And that could make you move less, and the other gladiator has all the speed, so they're constantly hitting you and running away, and
So you might think I might not need to move.
Yeah.
So you can take it away from your speed dice, but then you're losing your initiative, so they're
Yeah.
going to get first go.
So, just so I understand, if it turns out that there are multiple gladiators involved in this fight, could you potentially end up in that horrible situation where one person just ends up getting beaten down on by multiple other people?
Yes. So that's what I love about this
Fantastic.
game. So
That's
we had
horrible.
a really interesting situation in our game, right? So normally gladiators, if a Primus is called, where it's a 2-on-2 battle, they're a team. They can't betray that. But there are some gladiators with unique abilities where they can change teams.
Right.
And we were in a unique situation where Blayke had the best gladiator in the game, Spartacus.
Did you stand up and say, "No, I'm Spartacus"?
We didn't say that all day, actually. I was so
That's the joke.
disappointed.
The joke is literally sitting right.
in my-
I'm Spartacus, and so is my wife.
In my defense, I haven't seen Spartacus.
So Blayke had the strongest gladiator. My cousin was on his team. He had a gladiator that could change teams and start attacking Spartacus. So I was like, Anthony, we can kill Spartacus now if we do it. If we backstab Blayke. Blayke already had some momentum in the game. He was going to win it. If we kill his best gladiator, that gives us a chance. But he wanted to... If you win the fight, you get a prestige point, an intrigue point as well. So Anthony wanted to win the fight. And I'm like, no, this is more important for table balance. But the reason he didn't listen to me was because I also was a gladiator that could change sides.
Right.
So he thought he was going to change sides, and then I would change sides and be on the same team as Spartacus.
You 100% would have done
I
that.
wasn't going to. I wanted to kill
Maybe
Blayke.
maybe not the start, but if a couple of dice rolls didn't go,
probably.
you immediately would have shifted back.
Yeah.
So the game, what I love about this game is the backstabbing happens right out of the gates.
Right, okay.
Right? I literally showed a card to 4 other players and backstabbed my cousin because they all said, yes, you could do this.
Okay. Love
That was my first move. So the backstabbing happens everywhere. There's reaction cards which happen when certain other things happen. So they're the sabotage and TI, like just other things, in the auctioning phase, you can reduce someone's bid and things like that. So a lot of it is luck of the card draw, but there's so many cards in that deck. You can't rely on certain cards to come out. And the backstabbing in the arena phase was so funny. And my cousin Ant, I was already upset with him because he didn't betray Blayke and kill him. So there was a time where I think Blayke and I were on a team and we were versing my cousin Ant and my brother, I think. Mm-hmm. Anyways, my cousin Ant was that same gladiator and he betrayed his teammate. So now it became a 3-on-1. So it was me, Blayke, and Anthony versus my brother.
Oh, no.
But what we did, Blayke and I had stronger gladiators, faster ones. So we cornered, my cousin was just running away, and we cornered him so he couldn't run away anymore. And we made sure his gladiator died in the fight. We did it during the fight. We backstabbed him. So, yeah, this game can be brutal, but in the end, it's all done with table balance in mind. Yeah. So you never have a player that runs away with the lead.
Sorry, Damien. I was going to ask Ralph very quickly. Do you feel like this reignition of this game is just kind of like, you realize why you got into this hobby? Like, do you feel like, it needs to get played again?
It definitely does. I played this game a lot. I played it with the wrong rules as well for a very long time.
It definitely seems like a game you can definitely house rule very easily.
I think it needs to. The rulebook isn't fantastic. There's certain things where it happened during the game where I think normally in the 2v2 battles, both the gladiators roll their speed dice and that team was to go first who gets the highest. But when there was 3 of us on the same team, we're like, and we wanted to corner my cousin, we're like, how's this work? And someone just said, what about each gladiator just roll speed dice individually and then do the turn order that way? And we're like, sure. So we just rolled with it.
I suppose if you're consistent across the board, then, whether or not, at least it'll work.
But a lot has to be said about some older games that aren't as tight, if you will, that they have wobbliness about them. And I know some people don't like that. I know some people don't like when a game that can't be defined to the nth degree in the rules. But I kind of like that, especially when you have high interaction games where a lot of the time the game is not what's happening on the table. It's actually what's happening to the players sort of above the table, if you will.
That's right.
Where you do have a wobbly rule like that, and the typical thing, you might check out Board Game Geek, see if someone's found a solution for it. But I don't think there's anything wrong in particularly these sort of games where you just house rule it and you'll just say, hey, let's do this for this scenario.
And I've done that a couple of times when the boys have said, look, we just want to, let's learn by playing. And I've said, okay. Yeah. And then I'll be half an hour into a game and realized I've stuffed up a rule, but I've done it 3 times. So I've said, you know what? That's the rule for this game. And then at the end of the game, I've said, actually, for that entire game, we were doing this wrong. This is how it has to work. And we've had a couple of times where the boys have gone, oh, that makes a lot of sense now, why that would be the case. And then, but for that one game, it's like, it's fine. Just so long as we're all playing the rules. Yeah.
But this is the first time I had you around my place for a big game. Well, what did you think of Spartacus?
I love this game. I need to play it again and again and again.
Yeah, it's so good.
We keep coming back on, podcast after podcast to theme, and obviously it's very strong. It takes it from the TV show, which is quite popular. But everything just works from the market phase to the backstabbing to the how much influence you have to teaming up, and I want to use your influence to help me play this card. Just everything sort of fits neatly into this nice package that this game presents. Like you say, it's older. It's got that wobbliness to it. It's definitely not 100% balanced. There are definitely stronger dominuses than others.
Yeah, it's like the TI races in a way.
Nothing that, you're going to come across playing casually,
But again, if you have enough players at the table, again, just like TI, just like other games, similar ilk. If there's one person walking away with it, it's the responsibility of everyone else at the table to pile on.
That's what I like. That's what I like about
and that's
this
what
game.
Happened. Rob in this game took off to a
very
really
good early lead
start, and the table took him down.
That's it.
We did. We did.
And what surprised me about this game started to come to a close, and I think me, Pat, and Anth were
you're on
vying for about 10 or 11 points, or vying right at the end. And then in this last turn, Ralph and Rob both screamed up the point chart to be within 1 or 2 points.
Right at the end, holding on to
the game
cards,
finished. So definitely felt like we were all within a chance.
What I love
for
about
the
it
whole
is multiple people can finish a phase on 12 points. And then what you do is you count up all those players' assets, and the players with the top 2 amount of assets, they do a fight to the death for the match, which I think is amazing. That's the best way to finish a game.
Yep.
So this game, it came out in 2012, around the time the first season of the show finished. I'm a big fan of the show. The show has a lot of backstabbing in it, and that really shines in this board game itself. 3 years later, it had a re-implementation with X-Men.
Oh,
So the theme is X-Men related. I haven't played this version, but I believe just 2 years ago there was a reprint with like more cartoony graphics of the Spartacus game as well. But it doesn't have the 2 expansions that the base game has.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a good explanation about the reignition of an old flame into the roaring fire that was Spartacus. Blake, do you have any reignition of games that you've played other than Spartacus lately?
Look, I mean, being a fairly newer board gamer myself and only starting within the last few years, I guess I don't have, game from my childhood besides Amasil, I've talked about endlessly. Which I haven't got around to playing. But I guess if we talk about from my start of my board gaming career, we did get a new one, an Old Flame to the table. My first game, Old Western Trail.
Yes.
We did have another game of that recently. I think I still have the same problems that I've always had with it, but it's one of those, I think it's a comfort game for me. It's one of those games that if it hits the table, I'm always down to play it. It's I've got my issues with it, but it's just so
nostalgic at the
so
moment.
nostalgic, I guess. Yeah, from humble beginnings.
I love how the New Zealand variant is sheep.
Yeah. Did you see the marketing on it though?
No, I haven't.
They refer to them as cattle.
Cattle.
But
So there's sheep
cattle.
everywhere.
It's 100% a typo, but it's now publicized everywhere.
The front cover is like pure sheep. It's so funny.
Okay, so to end up, I'll finalize with my game. I think one of the games that I wanted to bring up is Acquire. And this was a game that I introduced, I brought to one of the MacArthur board game meetups, which I did, but I also brought it out during GooberCon. And it's one of those games that I played and I bought, and I played the absolute crap out of it for a good 2 years, and then it went into storage for about 6. And then it came back out, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I should play that again. And as soon as I played it, I went, oh, this is the game that replaces Monopoly for me. This is the definitive, it should
It's
be.
so weird because it's not anything like Monopoly.
No, but that's why I think it should, because it's a game that's all about the idea of making hotels and buying shares in those hotels and very simply just trying to just outmaneuver your opponents. But you also have a couple of things in regards to okay, well, I can put tiles on the board and hold on to tiles to wait for my moment and things like that. And I really dig that game, and I really do think that from a standpoint of reignition, that game went from being in storage to being on my shelves and actually having a prime part right smack bang in the middle.
I just put Spartacus back on my shelves. It was in storage for so long.
Love it. And I do want to very quickly point out that one game that did fail to reignite its spark was a couple of weeks back when we played a Catan for our Gateway Game of the Week. Yeah, it's still smouldering in the ashes of the charcoal pit.
Oh, you burnt it. Wow.
Metaphorically.
How does it do for kindling? Can we do a kindling score on Catan?
It's not great when I'm trying to slow cook my meats, I tell you that.
Well, the meeples are made out of wood, aren't they? You got wooden cards.
Look, I just want to say, I really do respect that game for what it is, but it is just not a game for me anymore. I really do. I will play it with new players to introduce them to the game, but if... it's just not for me anymore. I tried. I really tried, guys. I tried. Anyway, so given that we've had that chat, we are going to call it there for this evening.
I do have a question for you guys.
Oh, yes, please do.
I want to know from each of you, and then our listeners, what is your desert island game?
My desert island game.
Yeah.
Easy one.
Is this if I'm just trapped on a desert island?
You're just trapped on a desert island. You can take one game with you, no matter how big, how small. What would you take?
Oh, that's a really...
Say there's the faintest chance that you're going to bump into someone there too.
Crocodile.
Mage Knight.
Mage Knight?
My mind went Twilight Imperium, and I went, I don't want to get sand in all the bits. This is ridiculous.
But you wouldn't have 6 people.
No,
with you.
like I've had the wind incident of all 20.
There's a few
with
palm
Twilight
trees on
Imperium.
this island.
I don't know what those cards go scattering on that island. Just give me the. You know what? I can
Yeah.
also use the wooden board for Crocodile in case in dire straits. I've got some wood that I can burn.
Mage Knight because sensational game solo, and worst comes to worst, the box is big enough to attempt to row.
That's a great answer.
That's a great answer.
Oh, man.
Yes.
I might take Frosthaven just because I know that can support at least 30 kilos. If I lose some weight, I'll be fine. What about you, Blake?
Well, I'm taking Dead Reckoning because I think if I imagine the pirate ship sails off the island, I might be able to get on.
Perfect.
It's got a solo game, so in there and rolling those cubes down that. It's just endlessly entertaining.
You'd just be on the island rolling dice constantly.
Oh, God. All right, and with that, we're going to call it there. Go to www.boardgamegateway.com. Check out our website and our Facebook page, which the links are on our website. Go to YouTube and type in @BG Gateway into the search bar. We will come up there. Go check out our videos, our shorts. We've got a lot, well, YouTube shorts, not our actual shorts. We've got a lot of stuff going on. It's a late night. Get off my case.
Not that type of podcast, Nish.
No, it's not. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, guys. This has been episode number 30. Welcome, Damien, again, officially into the fold. We'd love to have you here.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to seeing you next week in episode 31. Until then, see you next time, guys.
Bye, Ren.
Bye.
See ya.